My dog didn't just die. He was taken from me. But why would my own daughter do that? Stay with me because in the next few minutes you'll learn what silence can cover and what it can destroy. She said it was just a dog. Then she offered to help me pack. Then the photo of me disappeared from the wall and the tea tasted bitter. But I smiled. I stayed quiet. I watched because some storms don't come with thunder. Some come with paperwork, patience, and one final plan. This is my story, and it's colder than you think. Thank you for being here. Have you ever been loved in a way that felt more like being managed? Leave a comment below, even just one word. Where are you watching from? Or what time is it right now? And if quiet, powerful stories speak to you, don't forget to subscribe for more. He's just a dog, Mom. Get over it. The meat was still warm when I picked it up from the porch. It was wrapped in foil, half chewed, blood on one side, grease on the other. Buster's favorite. Bacon-stuffed ground beef. The kind my daughter said I shouldn't be making anymore. Too greasy. Too old-fashioned. He gobbled it in seconds, tail thumping against the wooden floor like a metronome. Then he stumbled. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there watching his legs go limp, his eyes flicker, and his tongue curl unnaturally. My hands were shaking too much to unlock my phone. By the time I managed to dial 911, he was already gone. Still warm, still smelling like bacon in summer. And my daughter. She stood behind me in the doorway, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, looked down at Buster's crumpled body, and said it flatly like commenting on the weather. He's just a dog, Mom. Get over it. I turned to her. She was scrolling Instagram. There's a kind of silence your bones remember. I don't know how long I stared at her. 5 seconds, a minute. Long enough for her to sigh and walk away. Later that afternoon, I wrapped Buster in his favorite blanket, blue, with the little paw prints. I placed a photo of us, me and my gardening gloves, him muddy-pawed on my lap under his chin. Then I dug the grave myself. My knees ached. My back screamed. I didn't care. He was more than just a dog. He was the last heartbeat in this house that didn't lie to me. The garbage can outside smelled strange. Chemical, bitter, metallic. I lifted the lid. Inside foil. The same kind I used, but this wasn't mine. It had a yellow powdery residue on the inside, something sticky, like melted plastic or old glue. I wrapped it in a bag, double knot, and shoved it into the freezer. I didn't know what I was doing, but my gut screamed, keep it. That night, Rose came back from the gym. She tossed her keys onto the counter and looked at me like she was expecting something. Apology? Gratitude? Silence? You okay? She asked, not looking up from her protein shake. I nodded. She smiled like a woman who just crossed something off a list. And then she said it again like punctuation. He was just a dog, Mom. I didn't sleep. I lay there with the old leash curled in my fist like rosary beads. My mind spun again. The porch light flickered outside. The wind rattled the shutters. And somewhere beneath it all, I swore I heard one last bark. You'd be happier in assisted living anyway. She said it over breakfast, casually between bites of avocado toast and sips of that overpriced oat milk latte she always makes in my kitchen. You'd be happier in assisted living anyway. She didn't look up, just kept scrolling. I sat across the table still in my nightgown. My tea had gone cold in my hand. The sugar hadn't even dissolved. I stared at her at the side of her face, at the curve of her jaw, my late husband's jaw. How cruel it is, the way blood carries both memory and betrayal. You've been tired lately. Slower, forgetful, she added, as if I needed help noticing. Then came the smile. Not cruel. Worse, practical. We just want what's best for you. It's not safe for you to be here alone all day. You'd have people your age to talk to, meals, nurses. You'd have support. She didn't mean support. She meant silence, obedience, removal. I smiled back. Small, sweet, hollow. Later that afternoon, a woman came by just to talk. Young, blonde, too cheerful. Introduced herself as a transitional wellness coordinator. She walked through the house like she already owned it, touched the backs of chairs, measured imaginary spaces with her eyes, pointed at the steps and said, "Ooh, that could be tricky for someone your age." My age. I offered her coffee. She declined. Then she pulled out brochures, photos of people sitting on patios, laughing too hard, smiling too wide, wearing the same cardigan in different colors. When she left, Rose handed me a wrapped box. Gold paper, neat bow. I was going to wait, but hey, early surprise, she said. I opened it. A suitcase, navy blue, brand new, 4 wheels, lightweight for easier transitions. That night, I found the envelope. It was left on the printer, my name typed across the top. Advanced Healthcare Directive, Patricia Elaine Rucker. It had my signature only. I never signed it. I flipped the pages. Buried in legalese was a single line underlined. In case of incapacity, health decisions shall be made by Rose J. Rucker. I sat in the dark for hours. Didn't speak, didn't cry. I just held that suitcase on my lap, staring at my name in someone else's handwriting. She had packed my departure with a ribbon. "Where's my photo?" I asked it without thinking. It slipped out like a hiccup, soft but sharp. We were standing in the hallway. Rose had just repainted. "Freshening things up," she said. "Clean white walls, new black frames, same photos, graduations, weddings, birthdays, except not all of them." My wedding photo was gone. So was Buster's picture and the one of me holding Rose after her first divorce. That night, she cried like a child and said I was the only person who'd ever stayed. I pointed at the blank space. "Where's my photo?" Rose didn't pause. "Oh, I thought we'd rotate some out. You know, less clutter, minimalism." Clutter. I stood there, scanning every frame, every moment that mattered, erased. That evening, I went to look for the spare checkbook, not because I needed checks, because I needed control. The old safe was in the closet behind my winter coats. Combination lock. My birthday. Turn the dial. Open the door. Empty. No cash, no documents. Just a single sticky note. Filed digitally. Filed where? By whom? I called the bank the next morning, used my phone voice. Polite, clueless Southern. I asked about a recent account transaction. The woman on the line hesitated. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Rucker, but according to our records, you authorized your daughter to manage these accounts 3 months ago." I didn't say a word, not one breath, not even when she added, "And she did mention you were experiencing some memory issues." I hung up. Then I sat in my kitchen and stared at the sugar jar. It was labeled sweet, and for a moment, I hated the word. That evening, my granddaughter Lily dropped by. 17. Oversized hoodie, wounded eyes. She came for leftover lasagna, but stayed for silence. I poured her ginger ale and sat across from her. She scrolled her phone, looked up, and said, "So, when are you moving?" I blinked. Moving? She hesitated. "Mom said the house is going to be ours soon. She said she's planning a game room." She laughed a little, nervously. "I guess she meant after you, retire or whatever." She left early, said she had homework, but before she walked out, she paused in the hallway, looked at the photo wall, and whispered, "You used to be in the middle." Then she was gone. I didn't sleep again, but I did open my laptop. I typed 2 words into the search bar, free legal aid. I thought we'd already convinced her. Their voices came through the baby monitor. Not a baby's room anymore, just an extra one they let me use for crafts. The monitor was still plugged in, forgotten. Or maybe not. I was sitting on the floor pretending to organize yarn when I heard Rose's voice. "Low tight." I thought we'd already convinced her. Then her husband, Chris, sharp like cracked glass. "She's dragging it out, playing sweet, acting confused. She signed the health directive. She'll forget that she did." A pause, then a laugh. "Not cruel, just businesslike. 2 more weeks, then the facility opens up." Facility. That word hung in my ears like poison. They weren't helping me. They were burying me alive. Not with dirt, with paperwork, signatures, and smiles. That night, I went into the garage, found Rose's hunting bag. She hadn't used it in years, not since before her second divorce, but the zipper still worked. Inside, gloves, flashlight, receipts. Receipts dated 3 weeks ago, a local pharmacy, a prescription not in my name, but the medicine matched the bottle she left near my tea once. When I thought the taste was off, I dumped it out. A coincidence maybe, but my bones didn't believe in coincidences anymore. I bought a prepaid phone the next morning, cash only. Then I drove across town to the public library, created a new email, signed up for a virtual elder law seminar. The woman leading it wore glasses too big for her face and a sweater with a cat on it. But she knew things. Words like revocable trust, power of attorney abuse, and document tampering. I wrote down every word. I also wrote down hers, Cynthia Boone, an expert in senior financial exploitation based in Tampa, only 2 hours away. When I got home, Rose was in my kitchen on the phone. She turned away when I walked in, but I heard it. She's still lucid. Yeah, but honestly, only sometimes. I think we're close. Close to what? She looked up and smiled. Fake. Fast. Slick. How was your day, Mom? I smiled back. Lovely. That night, I moved the baby monitor into the living room, hidden behind the fake plant I'd always hated. I plugged it in, sat down with a pen, and wrote one word in the center of a blank page. War. You're not crazy. You're in a trap. The woman on the screen looked nothing like a lawyer. Hair in a messy bun, big owl glasses, coffee stain on her hoodie, but her voice, steady, calm, and razor sharp. Her name was Cynthia Boone. And after I finished my story, she leaned forward, rested her elbows on the desk, and said, "You're not crazy. You're in a trap." Those words landed in my chest like a flare. Suddenly, everything lit up. The missing money, the health directive I never signed, the erased photos, the suitcase, all of it. She told me things I already suspected, only now it was real, legal, nameable. Elder coercion, she said. Constructive abandonment. Probate pre-manipulation. Words like punches, each one sharper than the last. After the call, I didn't cry. I dressed. Not for war, not yet, but for a walk down the street, into town, into my body. I wore real shoes, not slippers, not the ones with orthopedic soles. I put on lipstick, red, bold, a little crooked, but mine. People looked at me like I was out of place. I smiled. That was the point. At the bank, I opened a new checking account under a different name, a trust. Patricia E. Rucker. Living Survivorship Trust. Just the sound of it made my spine straighten. I transferred a portion of my remaining funds. Not enough to set off alarms, but enough to matter. Then I bought 2 things, a fireproof lockbox, a prepaid debit card labeled, "For emergencies only." I slid both under the floorboards in my closet that night, under the square that creaks like a whisper. When I came home, Rose was waiting. "Out shopping?" she asked, eyeing my lipstick like it was a mistake. I nodded. "Something like that." She looked me up and down. "You look different." "I feel different." She laughed nervously. "Well, don't go spending too much, okay? You've got to think about the future." I leaned in close enough for her to smell the lipstick. "I'm thinking about it every second." That night, I wrote a letter to myself. I signed it, "To be opened when you forget who you are." Then I tucked it inside the box next to the emergency card along with a photo of Buster. "Guess who your new neighbor is?" The realtor thought it was a prank. "You're buying a second house right next to your current one?" I smiled. "Technically, I'm buying a house. The one next door belongs to my daughter. I just sleep there." She blinked. I didn't elaborate. It was a tired little ranch with faded shutters and a cracked porch swing. Bank-owned. Foreclosure, cash only. I paid up front, quietly through the trust. No paper trail with my name. It took exactly 11 days. And just like that, I had my own front door again. I moved in without a word. No boxes, no noise. Just a borrowed van and 3 items. A mattress, a folding chair, a coffee maker, and the fireproof box. The view from my front window. Direct line to Rose's driveway. I watched her leave in the mornings. Watched Chris carry shopping bags inside. Watched Lily come home from school with her earbuds in and her head down. Sometimes late at night, I saw Rose in the garage moving things, shredding papers, arguing with someone on speakerphone. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw the anger. One afternoon, Lily spotted me. She froze, eyes wide, mouth open like a question, then closed again. She walked across the grass slowly. "Grandma," she whispered, like saying my name too loudly might break the spell. "Hi, sweetheart. You live here?" I nodded. "Why?" I took a sip of coffee and gave the only honest answer I had. "Because your mother thinks I don't exist." She didn't laugh. She didn't speak, but she sat down on the porch beside me in silence. The next day, Rose rang the bell. She stood there blinking like someone had seen a ghost. "Mom," she said slowly, "why didn't you say anything?" "I didn't know I needed permission to buy a house." She laughed, fake and shaky. "You don't." This is kind of extreme." I leaned against the door frame. "You wanted space. I gave you some." That night, I watched from the window. She stood outside my old kitchen, yelling into the phone. Over the baby monitor, which I'd quietly taken with me, I heard it. "She's watching us. She's not backing off. She's moving against us." Pause. Then Chris's voice, sharp as a nail. "Then move faster. We need her signature while she's still useful." It was almost poetic. A house I no longer lived in, a fridge I no longer used. But I still had eyes inside. I'd planted a pinhole camera the day I moved out, wedged in the fake ivy above the refrigerator, hidden behind dusty plastic leaves and years of being ignored. I watched everything from my folding chair across the lawn, every meal, every fight, every whisper. On Tuesday, just before noon, Chris came home early. He didn't see the camera. He did see the folder Rose had left on the table. Inside, documents, power of attorney updates, property transfers, medical affidavits. He thumbed through them, then pulled out his phone. "Hey," he said. I looked over the draft. "It's ready." Pause. A short laugh. "We need her signature while she's still useful." Another pause. "Just give her something to sleep. She signs things when she's groggy, remember?" I paused the footage, sat back, let the silence hit me full in the chest. Useful. That night, I went back to the house, quiet, focused, nothing dramatic, just an old woman with a flashlight and a mission. The key still worked. In the hall closet behind the spare towels, I found what I was looking for. The herbal tea box, the one Rose always offered me when I said I was feeling anxious. I took a bag, slid it open. It smelled wrong, metallic, bitter. I slid it into a Ziploc and labeled it Exhibit A. Before I left, I paused in the living room, stared at the wall of photos again. Still no me. Still no Buster. I reached up, rearranged one of the frames just slightly off-center, a reminder I had been here, and I was coming back. The next day, Cynthia Boone sent me a secure folder. It included draft 1 of my new trust, revocation of previous powers of attorney, and official declaration of competency signed by a state-licensed neuropsychologist I had visited quietly the week before. On video, me, sharp as ever, answering math questions, memory recall, logic puzzles. "I'm not just lucid," I said to the camera. "I'm patient." Later that evening, through the baby monitor, I heard Rose cursing. "She's stalling. She's faking. She's playing a long game." Then silence. Then the word that made me smile. "Dangerous." "She still keeps his collar." "Pathetic." I heard it through the monitor. Chris again laughing. "She still keeps his collar." "Pathetic." And Rose through her teeth. "Let her. Sentimental crap is all she's got left." They were wrong. It wasn't all I had left. It was the only thing I chose to keep. The collar lay on my windowsill next to a half-dead aloe plant. Black nylon, faded blue tag. Buster Rucker, if found, return home. He had always returned from the woods, from the neighbor's grill, from storms, from noise. Except the last time. He hadn't returned. He died in front of me. And I hadn't screamed. I hadn't moved. I just watched his body go still. And something in me had stilled with it. That morning, I held the collar in my hands and closed my eyes and remembered rain, hard and wild, slapping the roof like angry hands. The night the power went out. I'd gone to check the fuse box, slipped on the back steps, landed badly, couldn't get up. My phone was inside. My knee was twisted, and the rain kept falling. But Buster, he barked until the neighbor came out. He stood over me, soaked, trembling, refusing to leave. He didn't just save me. He reminded me I was still someone worth saving. I opened my notebook and flipped past all the legal notes, the diagrams, the passwords. On a blank page, I wrote one sentence. I forgive you, but I'll never forget. Then I placed the collar in the lockbox next to the tea bag, tucked between the trust document and the photo of us in the garden. I closed the lid. Later that night, I heard Rose talking to someone. Not Chris, not Lily. A man. Look, she doesn't scare me, Rose said. She's just dragging it out. She thinks she's smart. Then quieter. She has no idea what's coming. But I did, and so did Cynthia. The next morning, I took a quiet drive out of town to a clinic, walked in, signed my name, and asked for the blood panel. Anything specific we're testing for? The nurse asked. I smiled. Traces of things that shouldn't be there. Call 911. She's not responding. It happened on a Sunday. Church bells ringing faintly in the distance. Chris had brought over soup, his olive branch, he said. It smelled fine. Tasted like nothing. I took 2 slow sips. Just enough. Then I sat in the living room, hands folded, breath slow, eyes open, just wide enough. And then I let go, not of life, of tension. I let my neck fall just slightly to the side, let my lips part, my hand go slack, my breathing shallow, like a painting of a woman who almost fainted. Chris walked in, humming stopped. His spoon clattered against the bowl. Rose, I think something's wrong. Footsteps rushed, keys dropped, phone grabbed. Call 911. She's not responding. At the hospital, I played the part perfectly. Unfocused eyes. Pauses too long. I forgot the date. Misspoke my son-in-law's name. Fumbled a pen. The neurologist frowned, took notes. Rose smiled. And that smile, that smug, awful I-1 smile, I burned it into my brain. But what they didn't know was this. Cynthia had helped me set it all up. The blood test clean. The previous psych eval on record. My confusion, an act rehearsed in front of a mirror every night for 2 weeks. I had practiced my stumble, my stutter, my slow blink, like a one-woman play. Later, alone with the nurse, I whispered, "Can you do me a favor?" She paused. "Depends what kind. I need you to hand this to the attending physician privately." I slid her a sealed envelope with Cynthia's card and a notarized request to add the document to my file. Declaration of competency. Do not revoke rights without second opinion. She raised an eyebrow, then smiled. Just barely. Smart lady. Back home, Rose was giddy. She carried my bag inside, practically whistling. "You'll need rest," she said. "Maybe some help long-term. We can talk about arrangements." I nodded, muted, grateful. The perfect patient. That night, I watched her through the monitor. She poured wine, toasted Chris. A week tops, she'll sign anything. Let her think so. Let her celebrate, because the next signature they'd see would be mine on the document that erased every last dollar from her future. "Grandma, I know everything." She was waiting on the porch when I got back from the follow-up appointment. Hoodie, backpack. Eyes that looked too old for 17. "Lily." She didn't speak until I reached the top step. Didn't smile. Didn't fidget. Just looked at me and said, "Grandma, I know everything." I didn't ask what everything meant. Didn't need to. She opened her backpack and pulled out a red flash drive. They left it in the laptop. Mom's files, Signed documents, bank stuff. The camera app you installed? I saw the folder. The tea box? I tested one at school in chem class. She paused. I wasn't trying to spy. I needed to know if I was crazy. I sat beside her. We didn't touch. We didn't hug. But our silence felt closer than either. Does your mom know? I asked. She shook her head. Not yet, but Chris is suspicious. He asked why I'm so quiet lately. And you? I'm listening. She told me what she'd heard. Rose planning the legal angle. Chris joking about reselling my jewelry. The conversation about the facility already billing a deposit. They had assumed Lily was always in headphones, always in her own world. They had no idea she was hearing everything. She reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. Inside my wedding ring, the one that had gone missing last year. They were going to pawn it. I stole it back. Her voice cracked for the first time. I just didn't know what to do. I was scared. You're not scared now? She looked me straight in the eyes. I'm furious. We went inside. Together, we plugged the flash drive into my old laptop, opened folders, screenshots, PDFs. It was all there. Falsified digital forms, forged stamped approvals, time-stamped edits that proved tampering, enough to burn everything they'd built. Do you want revenge? Lily asked. No, I said. I want freedom, and I want it legally airtight. That night, I wrote a new addendum to my trust. In the event of an irreversible breakdown of family loyalty, inheritance shall be transferred to the youngest generation, bypassing the compromised middle. Signed, notarized, sealed in the box. Lily curled up on the couch, headphones on, playlist humming low. Before she drifted off, she whispered, "You always saw me. Now I see you too. You remember Henry? He's alive." The voice on the other end of the line was cracked like desert stone. Soft, slow, familiar. Patty. I hadn't heard that name in 43 years. Only one person ever called me that without sounding sarcastic. I clutched the phone tighter. Henry. Silence, then a soft laugh. Still got your fire? Henry Thomas Dawson. The first man I ever loved. Before Rose's father, before small towns and compromises and mortgages, he'd been my exit plan once, then Vietnam, then silence, then time. But not death. No, Henry hadn't died in '84 like my cousin swore. He'd just left to Arizona to start over, and now he was back. You remember our paperwork? He asked. My heart skipped. He meant the old will. Back in '79, we'd filed a joint document. One of those romantic gestures when you think the world will bend for love. If one of us died, the other would inherit the shared cabin we'd bought in Tennessee. The one I thought he sold, the one he never did. I still have it, he said. And now I have something else. What? He paused. A notarized statement saying you're of sound mind and that you were pressured by your daughter, and I'm willing to testify. I sat down hard. It wasn't about the cabin or even the testimony. It was the voice, the fact that someone from my before life remembered me, believed me, still saw Patty inside Patricia. 3 days later, he showed up in a dusty rental car with a bag full of paperwork and a beat-up guitar. He looked older, but he looked solid. Still like your tea hot and your whiskey cold? He asked. I nodded. He kissed my cheek like we'd paused, not ended. That night, we sat in folding chairs in the yard, watching the lights flicker in Rose's house. Henry looked over at me and said, "She doesn't know who she's dealing with, does she?" "No," I said, then smiled. "But she's about to." The next morning, Cynthia called. Her voice was electric. "The documents are ready. The filings are clean. If we move now, we control the narrative. And if we wait, she files first and paints you as confused." I looked out the window at Rose's car, sitting in my driveway like she still owned it. "Then we move," I said quietly and permanently. "You'll be on TV, Mom." Perfect. Rose barged in with a folder and a grin like a woman who'd won the lottery. Guess what? No pause. Got us a spot on a daytime show, National Real Network. I raised an eyebrow. Oh. She dropped the name like it was holy. Family first, elder edition. They want complicated families, she said. Estranged mothers, misunderstandings, elder care dilemmas. It's perfect. She handed me the release form. Just sign. Be yourself. You'll look great and it'll show the world how cooperative you are. I smiled. Soft, chilled, perfect. She thought I didn't know, but Lily had already warned me. Chris had pitched the show behind her back, sent in an application, framed me as the senile villain. I'll cry on camera if I have to, she told him in a text Lily forwarded me. What they didn't know was Cynthia knew the producer, old college friend. And Henry, he'd already pre-recorded a legal deposition. We filmed 2 days later. Bright lights, shiny chairs, warm smiles masking cold agendas. The host, Deborah, had soft hands and a steel trap voice. She introduced Rose and Chris first. Let them spin their narrative. We love Mom, but she's declining. It's hard. We're just trying to help. They cried on cue. Chris dabbed at nothing. Then it was my turn. I looked into the camera, took a breath, and said, I'm not sick. I'm not lost. I'm not confused. I'm awake. Gasps, a ripple in the crew. I reached under the seat and pulled out a manila folder, slid it onto the table. Deborah raised an eyebrow. These, I said, are signed affidavits, video timestamps, bank trail evidence, medical records, a certified declaration of competency, and testimony from a man they didn't know still existed. Cue camera cut. Henry, standing backstage. Chris's mouth opened. Rose paled. I was being erased, I said calmly. With ink, with kindness, with fake tea and forged files. But I remembered who I was and I remembered how to fight. This segment never aired in full. Too real, they said. But the clip went viral anyway. Hashtag Don't Erase Grandma trended for a week. My lawyer's inbox exploded. And Rose, well, let's just say she wasn't smiling when the studio's legal department handed her a cease and desist and a court summons in the same envelope. Backstage, Deborah hugged me. You blew the roof off. I nodded. They thought they were staging a show. I looked toward Rose being escorted out. They walked into a courtroom. Wait, what do you mean there's nothing left? She said it like someone discovering the floor was no longer beneath her. Wait, what do you mean there's nothing left? Her voice cracked, not from sadness, from panic. The banker leaned forward, calm, professional. All accounts associated with Mrs. Rucker were legally closed or transferred. The estate now belongs to the Rucker Survivorship Trust, which you're not a beneficiary of. Rose blinked. Once, twice. But I'm her daughter. The banker didn't flinch. That's not how trusts work, ma'am. 3 months earlier, every dollar I had, retirement, savings, property value, had been rerouted into a private multi-beneficiary legal structure, the Rucker Survivorship Trust. Beneficiaries, Lily, 3 nonprofits for elder abuse protection, a small scholarship fund for single mothers over 50, me, and not a cent for Rose. The house sold, the proceeds folded into the trust. The jewelry donated or auctioned. The game room Rose was planning? Now an Airbnb rented by a retired librarian named Carol, who collects wind chimes and drinks gin at 3 p.m. Chris screamed when he found out, literally in a Target parking lot. He called me 8 times, left 4 voicemails. You're being cruel. This isn't fair. You don't understand what you're doing to your family. I played them back while sipping tea. Sweet, untouched tea. Rose showed up at my door alone, sweating tired. No arrogance, no grin. Just talk to me, she said. I opened the screen door but didn't invite her in. You lied, I said. You tricked me, she snapped. No, I said quietly. You thought I was too old to know the difference between help and control. I'm your daughter. I looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't a girl anymore. Wasn't a woman either. Just someone who'd built her future on the grave of my silence and found the dirt was missing. I gave you everything once, I said. And you tried to bury me with it. She didn't speak, didn't move. Then, barely above a whisper, Please, can I have something? I held up one finger, one thing. I walked back inside, returned a moment later, handed her a photo. Us on her 5th birthday, her holding Buster's puppy leash, still smiling, still innocent. You can keep this, I said. It's the only version of us that doesn't disappoint me. She left without another word. I locked the door and exhaled. She moved. She vanished. The house was empty by morning. Neighbors said I'd been loading boxes at sunrise. Some claimed they saw a U-Haul. Others swore it was just me alone with 2 suitcases and a folding chair. No goodbye, no forwarding address, just gone. Chris stood on the curb in a bathrobe clutching his phone. She moved, he asked Lily, breathless. Lily shrugged, earbuds in. No, she vanished. And I had. I didn't go far, but far enough. A quiet condo in a coastal town where no one knew my name, where the air smelled like salt and silence, where the only sounds were gulls, the ocean, and the whistle of a kettle. 3 weeks passed before Rose tried again. She sent a letter. I'm sorry, Mom, for everything. Please let me explain. Please give me a chance. I didn't reply. Instead, I mailed her a single envelope. Inside, a copy of Buster's vet record and a sticky note with one line, "You lost me before the dog." This just made it legal. I opened a local bookstore account, took up painting, grew rosemary on my windowsill. Nobody asked me to sign anything. Nobody rearranged my furniture. Nobody called me confused. At night, I'd sit on the patio with a cold cup of tea, not because I forgot it, but because I chose to let it cool. Some things are better that way. Subtle, sharp, served cold. One evening, Lily called from her dorm. I'm studying law, she said. I smiled. I figured. Then softer. Grandma, I think about what you did every day. What I did. I asked. No, she said. What you didn't let them do. We didn't talk long. She had a midterm. I had a cup of silence to finish. Do you regret anything? Only that I waited so long. I was sitting on the porch watching the tide slide in and out like a sleeping breath when my neighbor asked the question. He was kind, quiet, wore socks with sandals. Didn't know my story. Just knew I liked my tea cold and my mornings quieter than most. He sipped from his thermos and said, Do you regret anything? I thought about it. The years I gave away. The dinners I cooked out of duty. The decisions I let be made for me. The leash I held on to too long. Then I looked at the ocean, my dog's old collar tied around a small potted plant beside me, and said, only that I waited so long. The rest? I didn't regret a thing. Not the house I bought behind her back. Not the forged trust one dismantled with a smile. Not the red lipstick or the folding chair or the camera above the fridge. I didn't regret making them uncomfortable. Didn't regret the silence I weaponized. Didn't regret the last will they never saw coming because I hadn't just reclaimed my life. I'd rewritten the ending. Henry still calls. Sometimes he visits. We don't talk about the past much. Too many years. Too many almosts. But he brings wine and forgets to leave. And that feels like its own kind of justice. I've made peace with my tea going cold. I don't rush anymore. If I forget things now, it's on purpose because forgetting can be freedom too. Last week, I adopted a rescue mutt. Big ears. Smarter than anyone realizes. I named him Justice. He sleeps beside my bed, watches the door when I cook, knows not to bark unless it matters. The world didn't change because I got loud. It changed because I got clear. Rose never got the inheritance. But she got the message. And somewhere deep down, she knows that the woman she tried to erase was the one who wrote her out first. So here I am, Florida sun, quiet room, cold cup of tea, and everything I need. If you're still with me and this story meant something to you, subscribe. There's more to come.